Here we are. It's live. That's what I want. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to a stationary snack conversation with Carmen. Tonight's guest is a special friend of mine. Her name is Kayla, and we actually met. She was one of the first people I met at the University of Oklahoma during orientation camp. If you've ever talked to me, I kind of go. There's a few things that I go a little nutsy about. Plants, hockey, where I'm from, and Camp Crimson. So Camp Crimson still is a kind of crash course orientation, like learn everything you can possibly know about OU in 3 days and see who can stay up the longest. I went to camp knowing nobody because I was from out of state. And I met Kayla. She was in my group. We had little small groups, and we have been friends ever since then. And I'm not going to tell you how long it is because it's getting too many years. But she's so incredible. She's a wonderful person, and Kayla and I share a love for the outdoors. And so I really wanted to talk about outside and all of the cool things we can do there. And we're also going to talk a little bit about dance because we have that in common as well. So I'm going to let Kayla tell us a little bit about herself.
Well, thanks for having me, Carmen, and hello to whoever's out there. My name's Kayla, like Carmen said. I live in the Bay Area, but I've lived in 7 different states. I consider myself a Texan, which was kind of weird being at OU, but no one's perfect. I love reading, I love the outdoors, and I also love dance, so it's great to be able to talk to Carmen about all of this stuff. She also left out a love of Doctor Who, which we both kind of,
yes.
Yeah, that's it. Excited for this conversation.
All right. So I guess I'll use our Doctor Who to like kind of segue into that, like outside. So, and this is one of our favorite episodes, at least mine. So one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes is Vincent and the Doctor, where if you're not familiar with Doctor Who, you might be a little confused because it's a lot to explain. But basically, the Doctor and his companion Amy go back in time and they visit Vincent van Gogh. And a lot of that episode is outside in like the fields in France. And it's beautiful. I don't really know where I got like this extra spark, but I've always felt most alive, I feel, either on stage or outside hiking. And I went through just some dabbling outside to a series of me traveling a lot and doing headstands everywhere I went outside. And I stumbled upon, or I guess I didn't really stumble upon it. I knew that Kayla had started this Instagram account. And I was like, oh, this is like really cool. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that account.
Yeah. So I started an account on Instagram called The Great Out Ya, like we out here, we out ya, to celebrate people of color outdoors. And specifically, I started in 2016. That was the centennial for our national parks in the US. And there was a lot of conversation about how do we diversify outdoors? How do we get people of color outdoors? And one of my favorite podcasts is NPR's Code Switch. And at that time, I was listening to a little segment they had, or an episode rather, about do people of color explore the outdoors? And when I was listening to it, I was actually hiking in Big Sur, a campsite or a park in the Bay Area. I was like, this doesn't resonate with me. Like, I'm literally a person of color outdoors. Like, I should document this experience. So that was the impetus for it. And then since then, I'm just sharing the story of people of color outdoors, highlighting the importance of that connection, both for mental reasons, physical reasons, and just the joy of being outside. And really happy to be part of a community of people who are celebrating our stories and also sharing about some of the difficulties that happen as a result.
I love that. And that's I still follow to this day. And one of the things that I love about it is it's not just like people that you know or like our friends or so like that type of thing, because a lot of the things that I follow are just my friends, and it's my friends might be doing something big, but it's still like somebody that I'm very familiar with. But for me to see other people in places that I'm like not like snowy places. I don't like being cold. I don't like the cold. It makes my fingers go numb. But then to see people hiking like cruising things, I'm like, whoa, that's a cool place that I really have never seen anyone like me before, because I'm just like, ooh, it's cold. Um, and like there are also just the community that I got to also connect to. So there, it turned into following that one, and then following a bunch of other like hiking and being outdoors and women who hike and like unlikely hikers, and it's just really incredible to see this community of outdoors, which seems like there are literally no bounds of outside, but it's a very small community. To see those places starting to like make these strides in a direction, no pun intended, to be a little different, and to be not status quo of what you would expect. That's kind of one of my fun favorite things when I do go hiking. Like I will sometimes put on my red lipstick and put my makeup on, because part of me is like, I feel it makes me feel good, but also it's a weird respect for nature thing to me. I like put my best face on so I can look at her face. Like
Nothing sounds more Carmen than that. Like that resonates over these years. Yeah, there's something really powerful about seeing yourself represented anywhere, like whether it's in nature, whether it's, you know, there's in the account Brown Girls Do Ballet, like seeing, I remember when your photo was shared, like seeing yourself like, oh, like I can't be a ballerina, like I'm too old for that right now. But seeing that image, that beautiful possibility out there, I think is really important. And it's nice to like be affirmed in that way.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the weird things that like as I've gotten older, I've realized a lot of like affirmations, like there's self affirmation, but then there's other affirmation that we don't think about that we need. And when we get it, we're like, I'm like, I feel great. And you're like, why do I feel great? And it's like, oh, it's like this affirmation I didn't know existed that I needed, but now it happened. And now I'm like, okay. Let's see. I have some extra outside questions. Um, I think, in what ways does nature influence like art in the way that you see nature and art? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. It's a really good question. I don't know. There's a certain reverence that comes with being outdoors for me. Like it's just nice. You alluded to the Doctor Who episode that we like so much. Just being able to see things in a different way in nature. Like sometimes I'll be hiking with friends or with my husband and be like, there's just so many different types of greens in the world. Like how are there so many different types of green? And like, are you crazy? And it's like, no, well maybe not in that sense, but just being able to recognize the difference between like the grass that's green during like winter versus like spring or summer, and then being able to influence, I don't know, the jumpsuit I'm wearing or like different pieces of art that I want to collect. I don't know. I think I also like dabble in creating some art. So like recently, and the shelter in place time in the Bay Area has given me a lot of free time. So like I made an art piece recently, and I had some like flowers that were about to die. So instead of like just composting them, I like stuck them on the little canvas that I was doing something with. So I don't, just thinking of ways to like repurpose nature, or the way like recognizing where it shows up in my life and how I can add more into it, I think is really important.
Really awesome. I almost think of like so many artists, and I think it is cool because so many artists found themselves in nature, in like not just visual arts, but like in literature. Like you read poetry and you read just any like Tolkien, for instance. To me, like that's a lot of nature. There's a lot that you can just kind of gather from reading anything that he's written. With journeys, it's like he'll tell you about this whole forest. You're gonna know exactly what that forest is like, and whether or not you want to walk in it, which 97% of the time you're like nothing. But I think that's real. I think just it's nature's influence on art and how we function and how we move is really special. I know with the ballet company, a lot of like we've been putting together some things, and I did a little dancing outside. And we've got a beautiful cottonwood tree, massive cottonwood tree in my apartment complex. And I did the dance in front of that tree. And part of it, without intention, I looked at the recording. I was like, it looks like it is just a reverence, like a praise of this natural beauty that is around us. And I was like, I didn't mean, like, I don't think that's what this piece is about. But in that context and in that watching, I was like, this is reverence, like you were saying, to the beauty of this world that is around us. Um, and I think that nature always kind of has an influence on what art does.
Yeah. And I think like that connection to nature, that human need to be connected to nature in some way is kind of, you mentioned your love of plants earlier. Like that's, I mean, plants are both decoration in people's homes, but also like a way to connect to nature and like nurture something. So it's been really cool. Just I feel like over the past several years, like plant life has become like a huge thing. So yeah, there's the aesthetics of like plant life, but there's also just like a really nice way to connect with nature inside your own home. That's pretty awesome.
So are you a plant person?
Ish. I'm a succulent person. I don't know if that counts for like plant life.
They're plants.
Yeah, I haven't killed it. I feel like I don't give as much love and attention to it as another type of plant. We're lucky to have a little bit of space, so my husband actually like planted a bunch of herbs, so I'm able to like access those. But I'm more of like a admiration from afar for gardening, but I can like tend to plants indoors, if that makes sense.
Yes. See, I am a succulent killer. I don't do well with succulents. I love them too much. They're like, I don't want that water. I'm like, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And then all living things need water.
Yeah, exactly.
It's counterintuitive.
They like humidity. They don't. Not at all. I'm a tropical plant queen, though.
Yeah, nice.
I'm a tropical, and I'm happy because I think I'm happiest when it's warm and humid in my own home and outside. So that's me. But no, I love a little everyone. I think honestly, I feel like everyone is a plant person deep down inside. That you just have to find the right kind of plants for you.
Exactly.
Like you can even like grasses. They just like, I'm a grass.
Yeah.
They're simple. So favorite. I'm curious. Favorite national park.
Ooh, that is a tough question. Ooh, that's so difficult. So
7.
I have an answer, but it's difficult. So I've lived in like 7 different states. I have loved a lot of different parts of our country. I claim Texas as home, but was born in Louisiana. The West Coast has just like an obnoxious amount of national parks. Like it's kind of unfair. Like if I was a taxpayer in the East Coast, I'd be a little bitter. But Lhasa National Park in Northern California, I think is one of my favorites. I'm gonna give you three. So Lhasa National Park, the first time I visited it was in June, and there was still snow on the ground and like ice on the roads. So it was a very surreal experience being like, oh, it's supposed to be summer, yet I'm seeing a mountain full of snow and there's snow on the ground. And it was an event that was closed to the public, so there was only like a set number of people there, and it was so peaceful and so quiet that was a really lovely experience. And I think it's one of the more or least visited national parks, so highly recommend that if you're ever in Northern California. The Grand Canyon, like it is one of those experiences it is one of those things that you're like, you hear about the Grand Canyon, it's so great and glorious, blah, blah, blah. And then you see it and you're like, whoo, wow. They didn't lie. So a few years ago, I went there for, I forget which birthday it was. My birthday's in January, and the park it wasn't too icy, it wasn't too snowy. It was like this perfect like stillness and not too many people. And being able to be outside and just see the majesty of like what nature and like life had created was just like super glorious. So that's number 2. I feel like I should do like an East Coast one.
There's not that many.
There aren't that many.
So I get jealous. I'm like, oh, we have like.
Yeah. I'm also trying to think if it's like a big national park or like smaller national park. I think Great Falls, though, is maybe not Great Falls. I'll have to get back to you on the East Coast one.
Okay.
But those are like my two top favorite ones.
So when you mentioned the Grand Canyon, I like got goosebumps. Yeah. So I actually got to go to Grand Canyon for the first time in my whole life last 2 summers ago. 3 summers maybe. I can't remember.
What's time?
I don't know. There are no rules. I think it was 3 years ago. It was when, well, I know it was when my friend started dental school, and this is her coming up on her last year. So it was then.
Okay.
And I tease her to this day, so she's not gonna get mad about this. But she was one of those people like, oh, it's just a big hole in the ground. And I was like, I kind of hate when like I don't like having a high expectation and being disappointed. So I was like, oh, like I had been set up for like this disappointment before I even got there. And so I was like, well, like we just paid to come in here and it's like a week past. I'm only gonna be here for a few hours. So I was like in a tizzy. And I remember, because when you park, you can't see it. Or at least where we were, you can't see it. So we're starting to walk up. And it was like a cold in Carmen land, 65, maybe 64 degree day. A little drizzly. So we grabbed like our raincoats. And it was August. It was August. So it was like summer. And I was like, it was cold for this summer. Maybe that's why I thought it was cold. And we like start walking up. And I like stopped. Like the moment that you see the Grand Canyon, it's like really hard to describe. So like every time people are like, it's a hole, I'm like, you had your eyes closed. Like I don't know what you saw. But I saw something that's so majestic, I don't even know how to put it into words. So like that was an experience. We attempted to hike a little bit. It started thunderstorming. And so I don't know if you've ever been in a thunderstorm at the Grand Canyon.
No, but that sounds magical.
It's terrifying and magical. You can see the cloud development because you're so high, like on the rim.
Yeah.
You can see the storms developing in the canyon, and then the lightning is coming down. And I was like, we're trying to go down there. I was like, we need to turn around. Because you can see how rapidly it's happening. And it's like another testament to like nature and how incredible it is to watch a storm system develop in the canyon as you're trying to walk down there. And I was like, this is nuts. Let's turn around, but let's also never forget this moment in our lives. And then we drove out a back way. So we went through the woods of the Grand Canyon with the dirt road. It was grand. We saw elk, like they were chilling. It was like their hideout. I was like, we have infiltrated the nature.
That is awesome. I am jealous. So, I mean, Oklahoma is great for like all natural like wonders, especially like thunderstorms and lightning storms. I miss thunderstorms like in the South and like Midwest, and like I miss lightning. We just don't get them in the Bay Area, and that's like one of the few things. I miss a lot of stuff. But, like if I could get a good lightning storm,
with or without the thunder.
Okay, so again, I miss like the dramatics of like a good lightning and thunder situation. Yeah, I miss it.
So that's one of the big things here that I remember the storms from Oklahoma. So I was born in Texas. There I said it. Lived there for 8 years. Experienced the storms, and I hated them. Like I was a jumpy, scared child.
Yeah.
But also very adventurous. So like those things sometimes don't mesh.
Yeah.
But thunderstorms scare me and I can't figure out why. So we moved to North Carolina. There are not storms like that. There are hurricanes, but those are very predictable. You can like track them, even though they're slightly unpredictable, even while you're doing that. But like, it's a storm that's not going to throw too many crazy things at you. And then going back to Oklahoma for school, I was like, no.
Yeah, it's a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, I was glad to leave it for that aspect. Then coming back here, I have selectively forgotten about all storm type activity. We've had our fair share of tornado watches. Tornadoes have been close. I've had hail. I've slow-mo recorded hail. because
Don't miss those.
Times.
Don't miss them.
Woken up to like winds whacking the side of my building. Like, it's crazy.
No, don't miss wind related stuff.
No. And I don't like the thunder, so I don't like lightning is fine-ish. Many of my students will tell you that I'm lying because it will lightning and I'm like in the middle of teaching. I'm like, okay, we're fine. We're fine. Not fine. But yeah, the storms out here are bad, and I get a little scared. I'll hand you some.
Thank you.
I'm the same friend. I actually would love for you to share some of the ways that you would suggest people to get outside.
Good question. And the question takes on like a little bit of a different, I don't know, tent in if you're still sheltering in place, depending on where you are. I think something I've tried to do is notice what nature is like really nearby to me, like, and appreciate that nature. So whether it's like a plant that you brought into your home that you can like give a lot of attention to, I think that's really important. I think also valuing your local parks, like if you live in a city or a state that has local and state parks, those can be really great resources to get outside and connect to nature and like really accessible, hopefully. I think being mindful of like your surroundings, like when you're in nature nowadays, is really important. Like in this COVID-19 area, like try not to go on crowded trails. If you can do socially distanced hiking, like do that. Like be kind to yourself and to other people. And I think something that's going to happen this summer, just because, you know, people across the country have been in their homes for a while, like expect waits at some of our like bigger national parks. Like that's going to happen, plan for it. And think about some areas that are not as highly trafficked if you're really trying to get to a park on a certain destination, like on a certain date. A book that I've been referencing a lot in anticipation of like getting back out there it's a moon travel guide of the 59 national parks. And what's really nice about it is that they have like rankings of like, oh, like this is one of the less frequented parks, or like go during this time of year if you want to avoid crowds. That was like in the before times when things were normal. But I think having like a good sense of like, oh, like this is probably going to be more crowded this time of year. Maybe we can wait until like fall or something to visit. I think it's important.
Yeah, those are all really, really awesome suggestions. I also think, could you share some insight on things that one should bring when they're venturing into even a short hike or an adventure into a park? Because I have some things on my head that I'm like, you should bring these things. You're not gonna think about it.
Yeah, so I recently decided to go on a bike ride. I have not ridden a bike in a year and a half. So over Memorial Day weekend, I decided to go on a bike ride. Really happy to be out. Have been like sheltering in place in the Bay Area, riding my bike, like literally was like riding a bike, like didn't fall off, things are good. And then all of a sudden, like when I was riding, I got stung by a bee. And it was one of the most, I was very hurt, like it hurt physically. And then I was like really insulted that I was in motion riding a bike and then got stung by this bee. So it was like, was I not going fast enough? Like, how do you get stung by a bee in motion? But then my second reaction or third was like, why don't I have a first aid kit on me? Like this would, like, I need to have like tweezers or some type of ointment so I could have like cared for myself. I didn't, so I had to like ride my bike all the way back in pain and like sadness about my poor decision making. But I think a first aid kit is really, really helpful, not just for yourself, but for other people. I think including any medicines that you may need. I would also put like a snack in there, like in your first aid kit, like even if it's a short trip. Even if you're not going to be wandering for hours, like you don't want to be the person who's like angry at their friends or themselves. So just pack a snack. I would also encourage people to just bring like a bag to collect waste if you're able to. And the notion of pack it in, pack it out. Like if you are eating a snack on a trail or like in a park, bring your garbage out with you. Like a lot of cities, trash distribution has been disrupted by COVID-19. Like the extra, or their parks and rec departments, like the extra step of like packing out your own garbage, I think is really helpful. And if you see garbage like on a trail or in a park, like just do your part. Water is always a good a good thing to do. And if it's a longer trail, make sure like your phone is charged and people know where you're going. Keep your wits about you.
Those are all the things that I was thinking about. So, because one of my favorite hikes that I've done was Devil's Bridge in Sedona, Arizona. So it's a natural bridge, rock bridge. And I think it's like 627 or 25, something like that. It's over 600 feet. Like the bridge is over this crevice, not cavus. That's not even a word. And it's Sedona. And one thing that I didn't really grasp about Arizona, and when people tell you it's a dry heat, yes, it's hot, but you don't sweat.
Yeah.
I'm from the South, and I know I'm alive when I feel the air on my body when I go outside.
Yeah.
So we're going on this hike, and that day was a gorgeous day. It was warm. It was actually the same day as the Grand Canyon, but like moving in a little different direction. The weather was completely different. Beautiful day, nice and warm. My friend and I would start hiking. I religiously carried, I think it was like 3.5 liters of water with me every time we went hiking. I was like, I don't care how many times I have to pee. I'm bringing the water because hydration is important. We are going. This wasn't a short hike, and it was a strenuous hike, like a little like scrambling up some boulders and stuff. I'm drinking water the whole time, not sweating it out. And I was like, this is too weird. We I think it was like a 6 miles like total, which is not terribly long, but that's pretty significant distance to walk / climb up rocks. But when we got to the top, I was like, I'm not sweating. And sometimes when we sweat, we feel we need to replenish that water. And if you're out in a place that's dry, you're not going to feel that you need to necessarily drink the water until all of a sudden you're dizzy at the top of a mountain and you're like, oh no. So yeah, my friend got a little dizzy, and I was like, well, we also needed to get off the mountain because it was starting the sun sets real fast out the west.
Yeah.
I was like, there are coyotes. Let's go. I'll carry you down the mountain. We're not being out here in the dark. But yes, water, snacks are so important. A bag to carry your waist out is also so important. Because you're not always going to find a trash can at a trailhead. Like that's not, it's still nature.
I forgot sunscreen.
Oh yes.
Everyone needs to wear sunscreen.
Oh yes. And apply it every 2 hours. I don't care how obnoxious it is. Put that stuff on.
Yeah.
Do your duty.
Exactly.
And yeah, a first aid kit, because you might just, even if it's like just walking down to like a park, you can still trip, you can still fall, you can still those are important things.
And the best case scenario is that you can help someone else.
Exactly, yes. Where's some places that you would like to go?
Ooh, I haven't done any of the national parks in Utah, so that is definitely on my list. I would like to do, I think I've only done maybe like a third of the national parks in California, so I want to do that as well. I've also just wanted, like, outside of national parks, I want to go back to Louisiana and like spend time there. I just have this urge, probably because I've been like cooped up in the house for X number of months. Like, I just want to go like on a very long road trip and drive, like probably through Texas, maybe through New Mexico. I love New Mexico. Like, New Mexico is my favorite state to visit. Actually, I take it back. I think the first trip, like out when this is all done, like I want to go back to Albuquerque and Santa Fe and just like spend time there, and then maybe go to Utah and like finish my national parks trip. But I love New Mexico. Does that resonate with you as well?
Yes. Have you been to White Sands?
No, I haven't. I was gonna go the last time I was there in like January and didn't.
It It's phenomenal. We went, like, it's so beautiful. Like, and I think the big takeaway for me, and I think part of why I was like, I really want to talk about the outdoors, is because our national parks are like breathtaking. Like, there are so many places in just one, like, in our like continental United States that are so incredible, and they're all so incredibly different. And like white sands, like the way the plants grow up out of the dunes, and when you're standing, like you can be standing on like one of the main kind of movement ways and looking out to the mountains that are surrounding like the sand dune field.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna keep saying majestic because it's really the only word that I like can think of that like slightly encompasses what it's like. But like again, the colors, there are like these blues, and you realize it's like blues in the like the mountains are blue. It's like going to the Blue Ridge Parkway and looking through those valleys. Like the blues are these depths of blue that you didn't think existed for mountains. I don't even know. And like the sand is really soft too, so you can like take your shoes off, and like you can like there's fun things to do there. You can go like sand duning, like sledding on sand dunes. But it's just a really beautiful place, and the way that life continues, like there's no water there, so the way that plants and animals have adapted to live in a place that does not have like any natural source of water that's like running through it is like really really cool. And I also just like really like having the park rangers like take you on a sunset walk through some place that they are very passionate about, like to see other people's passion for the outdoors and for nature is just also really fun. I was just thinking about this as well. You used to live in France.
Yes.
And I think we should and could, we're going to, touch on just like traveling in general. Like when we can all move about in our spaces again. What are some things that, because I almost don't want to, it's not super like advicey, but like what are some things that you would suggest to people to really take in being in a different place that's not home, that you're not moving to, like, or exploring a new location?
That is a good question. And that's a good question. I think this like time of like forced sheltering in place, like not being able to have not being able to, because like airlines aren't flying a lot of places, like for safety and health reasons. I think I've reflected a lot on like how much of a privilege it is to travel. So I think having gratitude whenever you are able to travel, I think is something really important, and realizing it's not something that everyone can do. Like you have to have disposable income, you have to have time off from work. Like there's a lot of barriers to get to travel. I think something that when I was living in France and teaching, I taught English to like middle school and high school students. One of the conversations we had was like, oh, like they would ask like, oh, Americans don't really travel like a lot. Like that's like, why don't they do that? And I was like, our country is huge, massive. So I think one thing I would say is that like appreciating the beauty that we have in our country, like 50 different states, 48, like the lower 48 contiguous states. Like there's so much diversity and beauty in our country that I think people should consider exploring. Like you mentioned, our national parks, literally one of America's best ideas. Like they're out there, like access them. Our state park systems, like each state has a different set of state parks. I think there's a lot to be said there in terms of, you know, supporting your community, your state there. And then I think like international travel, it's really important to, not important. I will say I like when I'm able to spend time in a place. So like if you have like 4 or 5 days, instead of like going about to different cities, maybe consider just staying in a city for like 3 or 4 days and like really going about like as a local and trying to figure out where local people eat. In the days when you could like be in public with strangers and like be at a bar with strangers, I found it really helpful to like ask people like, oh, like what would you do tonight, or what's your favorite suggestion? And I'm looking forward to a time, you know, whether it's herd immunity or like a vaccine, when people are able to have these spontaneous conversations with people. I think a lot of magic and like good ideas can happen there when you're traveling.
I love like the aspects of like almost making it local for you. There's just like, I think one of the things that I look forward to with Northwest Arkansas when we can, well, a lot of people are moving around. I don't feel the most comfortable moving around very freely yet. I go to the grocery store and to the craft store. Those are like my two locales.
Yeah.
That's about me. So like having there's a lot here that I'm like excited. I've been to, there's a Cobb State Park or state conservation area here. I've been there a few times and I love going out there. But I know every time I talk to people at the grocery store, or even like people who are from here, I'm like, where are some outdoor places that I can like go to? I don't mind driving, like I will go. And I have like a list that just keeps going. And I'm like, okay, this is really amazing. So like, yes, totally taking advantage of your local aspects. And when you are traveling, like this, I don't know wherever this is, to really allow the people to guide you through their area, through their homes. Because I think that's how we learn the most. I know those are my favorite parts when I visited Germany and Austria. Our favorite things, the group I went with, were to ask the hostel desk where they like to hang out, and we're like, or we found out about this place. Is this a good place for us? And they're like, yeah, or no, or so that was like our way of navigating. Because there were some people who were like, where's the nearest Starbucks? I'm like, we don't need to go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
We need to not be there. We need to go to the little cafe and have the most delicious croissant of your whole life.
I would say with international travel, one thing I like to do is go to different bookstores. Like I love reading. So like I will search out like independent bookstores in different countries when I go. And there's just, I love books. I love books and I love bookstores. So there's just something that just feels like you're at home when you're in a bookstore. And I feel like the people who go to and like frequent bookstores are good people. So it's like a good place to like figure out like information, like people watch and support small businesses. That's a good move. And I would also say like when you're traveling like domestically, like within the United States or any country, figuring out the history of the indigenous people who have lived there, I think can really inform your experience and give a greater depth to your trip.
That's a really good one. One of the things that I personally like would need to learn a little bit more about are the people who occupied Arkansas, because a lot of the names of different, like in my apartment complex included, like there are these names that pop up, and I'm like, I know that these are native names, and I'm not sure how for some of them to pronounce. And I was like, I'm not going to mess them up, because I'm being from North Carolina. We learn about the Trail of Tears. I'm like, I know it's a like another just historically weighted thing. And my mother's family, I've never, that's weird. My mom, my mother, it's the wallpaper pattern. My mom's family is from Oklahoma. And my great grandmother is Choctaw. And so I'm part Choctaw. But I also know that there's a lot of migration from North Carolina to Oklahoma. And there was a lot of movement through that. So I think that's always been fascinating to me in a familiar way. I'm like, wait, my family's in Oklahoma, and now we live in North Carolina, but these two places are like really connected, and not the greatest way, but they're very connected, and I think it's an interesting connection. And something that I would love to delve into. So yeah, you could do that at a local bookstore.
Yes, exactly. Full circle.
Yes. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us or chat about? Because I could talk to you about parks all day.
Yeah. I feel like we should talk a little bit about dance since that's your profession and vocation. Yeah.
So tell us how you got involved with dancing. Because when we were in school, when we were in school, dance was like literally the only thing I could do. Because I was in my sorority, I still am. Is we don't like leave after the 4 years. But I didn't do things. I was like, guys, I'm not going to be at this event. I will come to clean up because I have rehearsal until 9. So I was always dancing. Didn't really experience much other than like our Camp Crimson time. That was like
it's a different type of dancing. Yeah. So growing up, we had like a liturgical dance group in our church. So like that was a former ballet dancer. This beautiful, beautiful Black woman was our ballet dance teacher. So like that was my first introduction to like structured dance classes. And throughout my life, I wish my parents would have made me like stick with dance. Like I'm sure there's like some type of parenting guidelines that's like don't force your kids to do something unless they're like super passionate about it. But I've always loved dancing, or at least like wanted to move to music and in community with people. So it's been like in the past few years where I've actually started like going back to dance classes, and I had a lot of stress about it as an adult. Like as a kid, like you know, you're teachable, you're like you know that you're not great at it, and like you can become better if you have a good teacher and like you're willing to learn. And then as an adult, it's like I had this anxiety about going into a dance class. I was like, I'm going to be bad at this. I'm like, I don't have to be good at it. Like, I just have to enjoy it. Like, I'm paying them. Like, I am here to learn, and like, it's okay. Like, I don't have to be good at it. So I have gotten really into like Afro-Brazilian dance in the past few years in the Bay Area. And that's been a really joyous, like community weighted dance for me that I really missed during the shelter in place time. I've taken a few like online classes, and it's a little tricky in a Bay Area apartment to find the space to dance. But that's been a really nice way to continue that. I've tried to take a few, I don't get TikTok dances. Like I feel like
no, those make any sense. That's not real.
I am comfortable with my age, but I like feel my age when I see like a TikTok dance. Like there's too many steps. Like the movements are just like very rigid, like inside of a cell phone. Whatever. That's not really for me.
It's one of them.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I can't do it.
Work in the garbage disposal. That's what that looks like.
All respect to people who can learn like different dance styles. Yeah. Not for me. So I've been trying to, and because I think like supporting local dance companies is really important, like different dance studios. I've been trying to take online classes, but it's hard. It's hard.
What because I've never been anywhere. I think outside of maybe I know at Dallas Black Dance Academy, they offered African dance classes. That was an experience for my 5-year-old self that I don't think I can ever live. Which, to this day, I'm like, I am terrified to take an African dance class. And I think that's one of the things I think also, and just like all that's going on right now, like there were things that class scared me. I was 5. And I was supposed to go to ballet, but there weren't enough people in the ballet class. And they just sent us little babies to the African class. But also there were 15-year-olds. It was like a teenager's class. It was not a little kid's class. And I remember this one girl, she was thinking now, I'm like, she's an incredible dancer.
Yeah.
She had her long braids and she was and I was like,
you're a baby.
Little 5-year-old in her ballet shoes, just wanting to do ballet, and we were in this West African class, and it was like really jarring. But it's something that I would love to try, but I don't see it anywhere. And also, I'm like, you need to get over that weirdness, because like for me, it's something that I'm like, I don't feel like I'm allowed to be bad at that, but I think because it's something I never really tried, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. So for Afro-Brazilian, for me, it was just interesting. Like once I was able to drop my cooler, whatever. I'm like, hey, like you don't have to be good at this. You don't know how to do it just because you're black. Like doesn't mean you get to know how to do Afro-Brazilian dance. But like seeing the different, like the continuity between, like a hip hop routine and like seeing where that has origins like in this Afro-Brazilian dance that we were doing from like Bahia, or like seeing like, oh wait, samba is like this, but like the dance that you were teaching us is like this, like that's how that was that evolution. It's been really cool as like a student of like a light student of dance to kind of see the evolution, and kind of just like a humility around it. It's like haven't studied this, very very new into this dance journey of exploring this, like, and that's okay. What are you getting out of it? And for me, it's like the community, it's the learning about a new culture of the diaspora, and also there's something like really freeing about being bad at something but like still enjoying it. Like it feels kind of good. Like in the moment it's like, oh gosh, this is so awkward, and that's a benefit of doing Zoom classes. But the feeling, like the dancer's high afterwards, is like, oh, it feels, it's affirming, it's wonderful, I love it. And then another class I'm doing off and on is like an Afro hits class. So it's more like contemporary, like to Afro beats dancing. And that's just fun to know like what the kids are dancing to nowadays and the clubs when they're able to go out to them and throughout the diaspora.
That's, I want to do it too.
I will send you a link.
I remember, I don't, were you, did you dance like in high school or like when you were younger?
I danced like so in the church group, and then like I took a few ballet classes, but it wasn't like I want to be yelled at by this person to stand up straight for X number of years. So like didn't really do it then. Yeah, I took like a PE class. I took a dance class, and at OU, I think I took one class like for fun, but it was related to like theater, but not seriously. It wasn't until like I was an adult and like needed to exercise but didn't really want to exercise. Like dancing to me, like yes, it's hard work, but it feels more joyous than exercise.
More fun.
Yeah,
it's fun exercise.
Yeah.
No one's screaming at you. You're like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. And I'm sweating. So when we were in like our high school, that's when at least in Cary, the like hip hop jazz was evolving from being very like Broadway jazz, which I liked because I could do it. It was something I could do. It was very similar to ballet. I love Fosse. Like I can do that because it's very structured, and there are places that I know how and where to put my body. It was transitioning into like the realm of hip hop, and me and hip hop don't get the dancing. I love watching it. Like oddly enough, I remember at the time for recruitment, we did skits, and there was always like a dance day. And the girls that did that hip hop, those girls were living, and they looked so good. And everyone's like, Carmen, you should be in hip hop. I'm like, no, I shouldn't.
Nope.
Give me the lyrical dance. And I, on purpose, auditioned for the hip hop dance just to feel like this is why you never need to put me there. And
Don't ask me again.
This is going to be the funniest moment of your whole life of watching me struggle through this dance. Because hip hop, I feel like there is a structure to it.
Absolutely.
But it's not my held structure. And I can't move. I'm like, I'm trying to move. I look like ridiculous.
In realizing, I think that's one of the things, like I would see freestylists or like Instagram or YouTube, I'm like, oh, that's so easy, I could do that. Like I have rhythm. It's like, no, I don't. Yes, I have rhythm. No, I can't do that. Like there is a structure and like a framework that you have to learn before you can like freestyle in this like really elegant, like really cool way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that was like the jazz classes were turning into hip hop classes. And I remember being like, and here's my bow out of jazz. Like,
yeah.
I can't do that. I remember I would stand in the back of the room and just be mortified because I knew I was bad. And I was like, I was real bad. I was like, nope, not today, not any day. We're not putting ourselves through this. But I think now, as an adult, I probably should, because some of my old students, they would have their hip hop classes, and they're like contemporary classes. They're like, Miss Carmen, come take with us. And I was like, I'm not taking class with a bunch of 11-year-olds who are better than me.
Yeah, nope.
I'm not that humble.
It's bad enough, again, having to watch TikTok dances where people are doing all this stuff. Like, have at it.
You know, they practice a lot.
You're right. You're right. And I have time.
One of the things I love that you said was the community that you feel before the time of COVID, the community that people feel in a dance studio, and it's not always about being the absolute best and being good at it. It's about, I'm here because I want to be here, and I'm doing something that makes me really happy. And I like that. I teach adults, and that's one of my favorite things about teaching adult classes. They show up because they want to, and they're like, I'm not good at that. I'm like, I'm gonna challenge you, but also like, I love that you're even trying, because there are people who won't even try.
It's true. Yeah.
So since you are in the Bay Area, the Bay Area actually does have a lot of dance companies. Were you able to see any companies perform before no one was performing?
I've been to like a few, this is a very Bay Area answer, like very like small experiential dances. I've been to the ballet once or twice. It's been interesting. So I work in the nonprofit sector. It's been interesting seeing like the ballet as an institution try to reach out to younger people. And so it's been interesting to watch like as a development fundraising nonprofit professional. But then as like a resident of San Francisco, it's like, oh, like if I see a ballet that I'm familiar with and I want to go to it, I will go. But it's not often on my radar. Like if a friend is performing in a show, it's like, oh yeah, like I'll go. But then like trying to figure out like, oh, like do I know that enough about that ballet to like go? Like do I want to experiment with it? So I should do a better job of that when all this is over.
No, you actually said something just now that was really interesting to me, about how ballet companies like trying to engage younger audiences, because that's something that we as dancers hear about it all the time. We're like, everyone's like, oh, here's this new like initiative we have, and it has a cute name, and like the idea of it is cute, but in practicality it never pans out. Like one event will happen and then it just kind of fizzles. And so that's really interesting, because I don't know what we'll call it, but I would thinking, oh, big city, they know how to reach out to their younger audiences, but that's really, I think I've realized like most companies are not on this like ease of reaching out to new patrons. And that's a shame, really.
It is. It's interesting though. So like when I think of like the legacy arts organizations in a city, like the opera, ballet, symphony, audiences that skew older, thinking about like it is important to have diverse companies. Like it's like I want to see people who look like me on stage, period. It is important to have like really compelling like stories and thoughts or like productions that you're doing. So like I don't remember who did it recently. I think we did Othello. I forget which of the organizations did Othello recently. It's like, oh, like A, I know that property. B, like it's a diverse like story, even though like low key problematic in some ways, Shakespeare. But like, oh, like I'm familiar with it. Like I can go to see this. And then our symphony has done things really interesting, like where it takes contemporary works. So like, they'll take like a movie. I think for Halloween they did Get Out with like a live symphony accompaniment, and it's like, okay, like maybe I wasn't going to go to the symphony before, even though I actually really love the symphony. I feel like all kids grew up, maybe not all kids, a lot of people grew up with like Peter and the Wolf, like hearing the different instruments play the different things. Like I like the symphony. But Get Out, something that people was like, in the zeitgeist for a while, and like adding the symphony as a benefit to that, I think little tweaks that will reach more people, I think is really important.
I don't do scary movies because they resonate for too long in my brain, being like forever, and I can't get them out of my head, and it freaks me out too much.
Fair.
That would be even scarier.
Yeah.
like music already has like the ability to just like pull up every emotion out of your body without you even consciously thinking about it, and then make it like, because well, it's the strings, in my opinion, it's the strings, because the vibrations,
Yes.
touch your soul. So that would be terrifying, because that's always the music they use when things are scary. Strings. You're like, oh no,
But I would say, to close this thought out, like what your company is doing, like having these like really accessible conversations with like ballerinas who like growing up, it's like, oh, like you're a ballerina, you're in a pedestal, like, oh, but you're also a normal person in like a beautifully fab like jumpsuit, like, oh, like I want to know more about like your world, like what you do, and like see you on stage. I think that's an easy way for people to like make it accessible, not like in a classes type of way or like dumbing anything down, but just like, oh, like you're a normal person who happens to be a ballerina.
And I love that. And if anyone ever meets me, if you see me anywhere, talk to me. I like to talk to people.
Yes, she does.
That's why I talk to you, because I'm a talker. But also, I'll tell you a million times, I'm a normal person. I tell my students, because before I started teaching, I only danced professionally, and I had students who had seen me only as this person on the stage doing something that they looked up to, and it was like they would speak to me, and I was like, I don't do silence in my class. It freaks me out. I need you to respond with real people words when I ask you questions. And I was like, I'm a normal person. Like I do ballet, but that doesn't make me. I don't want to be on a pedestal, because that's hard, and I make mistakes, and I say dumb things, and I say smart things sometimes, and I can enrich you in helping you understand kind of this whole. I feel like I tell them I'm not a ballet teacher. I'm a ballet dancer who teaches. So like I'm going to tell you about my personal experiences that I've had, and I can teach you from that. But I'm not just like going to teach you ballet, because that's not really productive.
Can I ask you, I think we're probably, I don't know, winding down, but like, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What is one ballet that you would recommend that maybe I can like find online or like buy or something that I should watch during this time if I want to get back into appreciating ballet?
So it's like my ballet that Serenade. So George Balanchine's Serenade. I think it is actually on YouTube. It's beautiful. It is the first Balanchine ballet I ever danced. I'm definitely a Balanchine ballet dance, like a ballerina. Like I love his work. I like the way it makes me feel as a woman, which kind of sound like I think from no dance background, that's like that doesn't make sense. But a lot of ballets, like I don't like classical ballets. I don't like their stories. I think as for myself, as like a voice, and I feel like I'm a fairly like I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't like how like fragile a lot of the female characters in classical ballets are. It just doesn't resonate well with me, and I'm not your soft Princess Aurora. I'm like, girl, wake up and then think about your choices. Like these are not good choices.
Yeah.
And also, why do you have this party with all these weird things happening? Like there's a bird. It's not a real bird. It's a person. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So like classical ballets just don't sit well. And I honestly sometimes think that classical ballets don't sit well with me because I don't like their stories, but those aren't Black stories, quote unquote. Those are always very European stories. Like you would have the princes and they're coming from the four corners of the globe, but they're just like four different places in Europe. And like you have like your Spanish dance and your Russian dance, like they just aren't very diverse stories. And I do like Giselle though. Giselle's beautiful. That's really, I think I like that one because I feel like Giselle's a little bit more of she's not super fragile in a way. She makes choices that are her own choices. And I do like Don Q, but You don't have to watch that one.
Right.
Giselle
and Giselle.
Yeah. Back when VHSs existed, the Balanchine celebration was on 2 VHS tapes, and I loved none of his abstract things on it. It didn't make sense to me then, but now, like, if I could grab those VHSs and watch top to bottom, I would watch everything on those. Like, there's Agon, which was originally the male part was danced by Arthur Mitchell, so that one's really beautiful. But it's abstract. It's a leotard ballet, no costume, like no clear like this is a costume. Then there's Western Symphony, which is like cowboys and saloon girls. There's Union Jack, which is like the British Army. There's Stars and Stripes, which is like an ode to America. So there are a lot. Those are, I like Balanchine ballets. But I'm trying to think of some other things that would be. Because I think also there's a classical ballet, which I'm lumping like romantic ballets and classical, like all of that together. Then you got your neoclassical, where it's like our modern, where we took the tutus off and you're on stage in a leotard, and or maybe just a leotard, and the movements are a little sharper, a little bit more free. You're not having to always be like, but you're like, oh, I have arms and I can flap my wrist if I want to.
Yeah.
And then we move on to like like there's like some contemporary works that are very open to movement, and then there's like a group of contemporary work that's just very avant-garde. And I think sometimes the avant-garde gets shown like on Instagram, like you can find a lot of really interesting occult stuff, and it's like, whoa, I don't dance is weird or dance is not accessible to me because that makes zero sense, and I don't want to go and pay money to go to a theater and like be confused, because there are things I've watched and I'm like, I don't understand, like I don't get it, I don't like it because I don't get it. And I think that's for me something. I don't want dance to be for the community. I don't want that to be dance for people to feel that they have to be wildly educated on a really specific something or be deep in the head of a choreographer to understand what they're looking at. But I also don't want I don't want to spoon feed anyone. So like for me, it's like neoclassical ballet. I like contemporary work too. I'm learning how to move my upper back. So I like neoclassical and contemporary work. The avant-garde, that's not where I am. I'm not words. I'm not too crazy about super contemporary art either. And I think that has a correlation. Like I understand the work that goes into it, but I'm like, I don't want it. You can have it. There's an art for everybody. And then like the classics, I think they're just too spoon-fed. But they're beautiful. They're really visually beautiful things because their groupings of people tend to be much larger, and it's incredible to watch that many people moving together as one unit. Thanks for if you want me to look up some of the companies that are around you and look at their season.
I think this is a good starting point, Balanchine. Like I'm very familiar with like contemporary dance. I guess, is Alvin Ailey considered contemporary as an art form or like a dance form?
So I consider Ailey is a pedestal that is like, like if I watch Revelations, I will probably look it up tonight and I will sit on my couch and just weep. But can we talk about Revelations for like 2
Do it. Yes.
So that's something I think everybody needs to watch. And I think I've said it earlier in a couple other episodes. Like if you've never watched dance before and you're like a little nervous, watch Revelations. Because they're like, it's beautiful in the dancing, but it's beautiful in the message that it shares there are parts like the finale. I watch it and I'm at church with my grandma, and there is like the joy of watching the people move. But I think what makes me cry so much when I watch it, I'm like, I feel at home. I'm seeing not only people who look like me on the stage, but like a feeling of being in a building with, like, I feel it. There's a feeling of being in a church with your grandma, with the fans. Like, y'all, I know the fan is hot. There's no air conditioning, and those fans on the ceiling don't do anything.
Nope. Yeah, it is. It's accessible and I feel like I've used that word a lot. It is accessible, like, in a really affirming way. It's like, oh, like I feel seen. They know what I have experienced. Like, we have a shared history, a shared like language around this feeling of this piece. And to see it like elevated in a place where like, oh, like people are paying money to see this as an art form, like gives it, not that it gives it more value, but it affirms the value that it already has. Like, this is an important experience. It is worth seeing on this stage. It is worth paying for and like spending time in this space to see.
And I feel that when it is performed, it's like it shoots that feeling out into the audience. So every person in the audience, whether they've experienced that feeling or they've not, has that same feeling. And like, I got it through the TV, and I was like, because I watched it, that was something that had been aired near the beginning of isolation, and I was like, this was a cry that I needed, because I felt it, and it's incredible. So Ailey, Revelations, but I think Ailey in like a spectrum is more considered modern, but I don't think of it as just modern dance. I think of Ailey as how it exists and what it does for the dance community as a whole. It's like its own bastion that like deserves every single bit of it being like, there's ballet and then there's Ailey and then there's modern and then there's other things. I love, and I've seen Revelations live like 2 or 3 times. Like, and I don't like to watch dance necessarily. I pick too much. It's hard for me to just see people dancing. I'm like, ooh. I see every little ankle wobble, and I'm like, oh no, don't.
That would be hard. That would be really hard. I've talked to like friends who are musicians or any type of performing arts. It's like, oh, like, can you like, or friends like who write or film critics, like, can you ever just like enjoy what's being presented to you? Like, no, it's so hard. Like, maybe it's a blessing to be mediocre at like art in general. So I can appreciate what you're doing because I can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, there are some, like, I think if my friends are performing, it's easier for me to just go and watch them, because I'm not going to be like, ooh, you almost fell, because then they'd slap me.
Yeah, that would not be cool.
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would slap someone if they did that. I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Get out.
Where are your manners?
I would probably just look at them. I have a look. Even my students know. I would just do the look. I don't know what it is, but I have to feel it first. I don't feel that either, so no look.
I'll have to keep you posted on my Balanchine journey. I feel like this is a good time to reconnect with different art forms.
I know those words, Carmen. I will also find some other people too, because there's so much. Like the company I was in before, we did a lot of our director at the time was a Balanchine dancer. Our ballet mistress was a Balanchine dancer. So like a lot of that influenced everything we did. So I feel like I have a like somewhat like narrow view, because we didn't do a lot of contemporary. We did at least one Balanchine ballet every year. So I'm like, I feel like I just kind of like wrapped up on, because we would sometimes do 2-in-1 programs. So it's like we might do 7 programs with Balanchine works, but there were 10 like not 10, like 4 in each program or something like that. Oh, fine. Creole Giselle. Dance Theater of Harlem did Giselle, but they based it in New Louisiana.
Oh, that's my jam. That's something that I would extremely like.
And if it's not on the internet, it'll probably be at a library somewhere that they might have it like in a digital archive.
Awesome.
Creole Giselle is good.
Dance Theater of Harlem.
Yes.
Perfect.
And it's the same steps, the same story, just set in Louisiana with like, instead of a German cultural background, it's a Black cultural background. It is beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah,
thanks for the recommendations.
No problem. I'm gonna keep thinking of things.
Please do.
Because there's some like there is so much more to ballet, and like I have a narrow view, and I know that I do, but I'm like, you have to like. I think part of me is like you have to like give classics a shot, but I don't want to. Like Swan Lake, you fell in love with a bird. What's wrong with you?
And I mean, I don't think it's that you haven't given a shot. Like you have, like you, I'm sure, like in your ballet training, like you have had to do that. So like, kind of been there, done that.
That, or I think I might be a little hypercritical of the stories. Like, again, I'll break them down to like sentences. I'm like, boy falls in love with bird. This is already stupid. I don't like it. Then bad guy changes and makes a different bird, not the same bird, a different bird, completely different looking bird, and he still falls in love thinking it's the first bird. Like, what is wrong with him?
Yeah, the suspension of disbelief, if I had to consume that as part of my job, would be a little difficult for me as well.
Yeah, and I'm like, this isn't not realistic. Not that any of it's realistic, but I'm like, this is really, really. Fairy tales aren't even this convoluted. And fairy tales are messed up.
Very much so.
As I say, taking German, we got the privilege and the blessing to read Grimm's fairy tales in like the not softened American version. Those are scary.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasts is called Myths and Legends, and they go through like just myths and legends from around the world, and they do a lot of the Grimm ones, and you're like, oh, this is dark. No wonder Disney had to like totally make things lighter.
Oh yeah. Like even Cinderella, like her stepsisters get their eyes pecked out at the end. Like that's not sweet.
It's a lot for kids to have to take it.
But there's one Daumenluke is like thumb sucker. Because a little boy would suck his thumb, and like there was a butcher involved who was like, "You better stop sucking your thumb, or I'm gonna cut it off." And he kept doing it, and that butcher cut his thumbs off.
Oh god!
And I was like, that would stop a kid from sucking their thumb real quick. Like, yeah. No, but that's the point of them. Oof. To teach lessons.
Yeah.
Might as well like shock and awe. I don't know. That's terrifying, actually.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Let's not traumatize anyone anymore. We've grown. We figured out some better ways.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to do some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to try not to get distracted, but I typically do.
Okay.
Because it's me. Talking or texting?
Texting.
Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or talk to animals?
Ooh, every language in the world.
How long does it take you to get ready?
5 to 10 minutes.
That's incredible. Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at keeping secrets?
10.
Dawn or dusk?
Ooh, dawn.
Place you most want to travel. We talked about that.
Yeah. back to New Mexico.
Favorite childhood TV show?
Recess.
It sounds so good.
Yeah. I started rewatching it because of Disney Plus. It's aged well.
Oh my god, this is what happens to me. Because I watch Disney Plus like daily. Kid you not. Like best investment my parents ever made to just be like, hey.
It's so good.
It's so good. I watched Lilo and Stitch today.
Oh.
Ohana, so sweet. So I'll do Recess. I'll probably end up just watching all of it, like
it's
binging.
Great. We need it during these times.
Okay, good. Favorite season?
Fall.
Cake or pie?
Pie, I guess.
Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Yes.
Why can't we tickle ourselves?
I have no idea, Carmen.
What's the best age?
Ooh, the best age. I'm going to say 27 just because that's my favorite number. And it was a good year for me.
I can't even, I'm like, you know what? I feel like 27 is an age that most people are like, I'm getting my stuff. And like, I'm doing me.
Yeah.
A lot of dancers that I know, they retire or stop dancing at like 26, 27 because they're like, there's so much world that I'm ready to see.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a study that I've created in my own head that nobody knows about except told right now. I feel at that age is when people who've danced forever are like, wait a minute. And like little horsey blinders come off and they're like, I'm about to do something spectacular with my life. And then they stop dancing and they do something spectacular with their lives.
Interesting.
Not that dancing wasn't, but it was like, anyways, tangent. This is why I should do this part.
I'm sorry.
This is why I like this part. If Voldemort offered you a hug, would you accept?
No, dude. No.
That was the best answer to that this whole time. That was no.
No.
I wouldn't either. I'd be like, also be like,
Exactly. That face.
He would get the disgust face that I like. Actually, I know what I do.
Yes.
Because I realize you're making a stink face, fix it. And then I fix it into a smile, but it's like a built one, like a Picasso.
Exactly.
Would you rather cuddle a baby panda or a baby penguin?
This is tough. Baby panda.
Would you want to live forever?
No.
Neither would I. Big dogs or small dogs?
Big dogs.
This question reminds me of Go Dogs Go.
Yes.
That was like one of my favorite books when I was a kid. I memorized it. Who does that? That's like a 65-page book.
Yeah, that's learning so much, Carmen.
Oh gosh, I'm a weirdo. It's fine. How many hours of sleep do you need?
Like 9 minimum.
6. I'm a solid 6-hour sleeper. I can do anything on 6 hours.
Nope.
Man, I need to sleep more, I think. Okay, this one has 2 options. You can either rank these or pick a favorite. What's your favorite carb? Bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes? Or you can rank those 4 in order of bestness.
Bread is most inclusive and includes croissants, challah, and other breads. So that's the answer for me.
Okay. I was gonna say, as you say that, I have chocolate zucchini bread with walnuts sitting on my counter, along with some English muffins and pita that I made yesterday.
I'm so jealous of your English muffins that you've made.
I will share all of my secrets.
Please do.
Like, it's sticky dough. The dough needs to be real, like, not sticky when it's on the counter. This is me eating it. But, like, after it sets, when you pull it off, it has to be a little bit sticky because it'll make it puff on the inside. I thought I did it wrong this time because it was, like, 78 degrees in my apartment. And I was like, it was too warm and my dough was too damp. but it makes them puff so nicely. And they're like good nooks and crannies on the inside. So
this is a tangent. I know, don't want to get us distracted. So along with the rest of the world have started like baking obsessively during the shelter in place. I want to make English muffins, and I'm afraid that it's going to be a lot of time and like the effort won't be worth it. Like, because I felt that way about cinnamon rolls. But I have a friend who's doing like a bagel making class this Saturday that I'm going to try to take, and I'm terrified that I'm going to mess them up.
I did bagels last week or 2 weekends ago.
I feel like you're good at bread making though. I have a lot of anxiety about this.
No, I don't think I'm good at bread making. I think they just come out well the first times that I do them. Like, because one of my middle sisters, like, everything you try, you do it good. I'm like, no, I don't. I am that person, that obnoxious person that's like, I'm going to try to bake bagels. And like, they come out, they're not disasters. Like, they weren't a disaster. They weren't good. They tasted great. Yeah. But like, they didn't like do the puffing and stuff correctly. But don't be nervous. It's just, don't be nervous. They're fun.
Let me know how it goes. It'll be edible.
Yeah, you'll bake it enough. They're gonna be great. Thanks. And really, like, I hate when people say it's just following directions. It really is just following the directions, and like, you like to be outside, so I think like having a sense of feel, like when you're doing something with your body, like when you're kneading dough, you can feel when the dough is like airy, and you can feel when dough is like really dense. So like, if you're kneading something and it's like you need to knead it to be smooth, you can feel when the dough is smooth. Like, you'll feel it. I think it's all in like the juju flow. Because like English muffins, when you roll them out, they're airy. Like the dough is like, you know when you fly and you want to touch the clouds?
Yes, actually. Okay. Good to know.
I'm like, ooh, it's like squishy. It's what I imagine a cloud would feel like if clouds were what I think in my brain that they're made of, and not what they really are made of.
Yeah. I get it. This was a worthwhile tangent.
Excellent. I can't speak anymore. Stale Sour Patch Kids or fresh circus peanuts?
Ew, stale Sour Patch Kids.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how good are you at wiffle ball?
I'd say a 6.
I mean, you used to play kickball, right?
Yeah.
I think you'd be good at wiffle ball.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to be more confident. I think a strong 6.
I'll take it. I'll give you 6.5.
Thanks.
How many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
Oof. Minimum 2 usually.
That's good. What's your ideal outside temperature?
I've become spoiled since living in the Bay Area. It's really tragic. Having lived in Houston, lived in DC, Oklahoma, places with like a lot of obnoxious temperatures, like a good 65 degrees, maybe 67 is probably like my temperature range now. To be fair, we don't have like central AC in our house, so like 67 is the max that I want to experience. Unless I'm in New Mexico, and then it can be as hot as it needs to there.
I was gonna say, like, that answer is like Bay Area.
It
like,
is.
if it were 67, I'd be like, I need a Coke.
It's all relative.
And people would just like glare at me because that's normally what happens, because I like have my coat on. They're like, it's not cold, but I am. Favorite type of muffin?
Favorite type of muffin? Blueberry. I think a good solid blueberry muffin.
You might have to send me that recipe. I love blueberry muffins. On a scale from 1 to 10, how hot do you like your shower?
Like an 8.
If you were given an all expense paid trip to Cleveland, would you take it?
Sure, yeah.
Tapas or pasta?
Tapas or pasta?
Uh-huh.
Tapas.
When people stand up for a standing ovation, are you usually one of the earlier people to stand up or later?
Later.
If there's a spider in your house, do you kill it or set your house on fire?
I guess kill it.
I changed that question.
My impulse is to leave my house, not to set it free.
The real question said, do you kill it or set it free? And I was like, what does set it free mean? Like,
Yeah.
I either become a hostage in my own home to the spider or I burn it down in my book. I've never
give my house to the spider. It's not worth it.
It's your house now. Yeah. You're the captain now.
Exactly.
Polka dots or stripes?
Stripes.
Would you go to a movie alone?
Yes, I love going to movies alone.
As I have that question on here, and I have one more show next week, everyone I know goes to the movies by themselves. That's not a weird thing. No, that's more weird if you wouldn't go alone.
It is a joy to go to a movie by oneself.
Yes. That's a weird question. I don't know why I picked it.
It's all good.
If you were given the opportunity to fly into space, given today's technology, would you take it?
Yeah.
Would you rather, this one's the most important of all, would you rather come face to face with a miniature hippopotamus or a giant cockroach? Both are in a bad mood, and you have to assume that both are the exact same size.
What are these questions? I don't know. I'm less afraid of a normal sized hippopotamus, which I know is foolish, than a cockroach. So I would have to say hippopotamus and just like see where it goes.
Honestly, that's the only logical answer. Because a cockroach, any bigger than those things already are, is paralyzing.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I'll take my chances.
No, yeah. I'll meet a hippo and I'll run real fast and probably still get run over, but that's fine. It wasn't a cockroach. What's your favorite? Not quite. They're not quite. Who's your favorite Harry Potter question? Harry Potter character. I just move all the letters around into different orders. Apparently, I'm tired because that's what I do when I'm tired.
I came to Harry Potter later in life, but I would say Hermione is probably my favorite character.
Another tangent. Have you listened to any Harry Potter podcasts?
No.
I've got one to share with you. It's called Potterless. It's this guy. He started reading Harry Potter like in his mid-20s, and it's like him summarizing from beginning to end. Like he was going to do a chapter at a time, but then he starts doing chunks, and then he starts doing chapters at a time as the series goes through. But it's like his initial reactions to each part of the books. It's hilarious.
Potterless?
Potterless.
Okay, great. Made a note.
He has like the thing for wrongly predicting things, and if you've read the books and like you're listening to him talk, you're like, wow, you are so off base. Like, you're so wrong. Like, you couldn't be more wrong.
Nice.
And it's just it's a really funny podcast. For someone who started reading it and he was like snarkily reading it and didn't really think he was gonna like it, to being like a big Harry Potter fan.
Yeah. And I remember reading it was it in 2016 too? I don't know. My husband had never read Lord of the Rings. I had never read Harry Potter. So like we switched those series and like I flew through Harry Potter. Granted, Lord of the Rings, love them. Can be a little dense sometimes. So I think I won in that trade-off. But I remember being so shocked about like the Voldemort, like Tom Ridley thing. I was like, what? It was enjoyable, even as an adult.
Yeah. Like he calls them children's books, and then he's like, I can't even call it a children's book anymore. I was like, that's why I kept reading. They were not kids' books. Like that wasn't for
super dark.
They were scary.
Yeah.
But they taught. I'm one of those old people now. I'm like, they taught us so much. Like I really feel that a lot of the mobilization in a weird way is things that we learned from Harry Potter. Like
that's an argument to be made. Yeah.
I'm like, there are times that I'm like, I'll be your secret leader. I will teach you what you need to know, because I know that a theoretical test of never practicing something is not going to work. So let's practice it.
So true.
Crazy. She's the scariest character of all time. Dolores Umbridge.
Oh, yes.
To me. Let's see. When eating a formal meal with multiple forks, do you start on the outside or inside?
Outside.
Sour Patch Kids or Swedish Fish?
Swedish Fish. Oh gosh, I wish I had some right now.
They're so good. Have you had the little mini ones? I like the little
Yep.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at trivia?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say a 6, actually. If it's like history trivia, pretty good. If it's like generic random stuff, not as good.
Okay. I love trivia, and weird. And I'm a Jeopardy, love Jeopardy. So
nice.
We'll have to do some trivia sometime. Super Mario Brothers or Zelda?
Super Mario's.
Which animal adds more joy to the world? Squirrels or llamas?
Llamas.
And how do you feel about cranberries?
Do not love cranberries. Could live, I don't mind cranberry juice and detest cranberry sauce, cranberry flavored stuff. There's very different reactions to those two things. Hard pass. Hard pass.
That's one of my favorites because I know cranberries are very polarizing fruit. I love cranberries, except I won't eat one raw.
No, because they're not good raw.
They're disgusting. But if you put them in a food processor with a little bit of orange juice, it's delicious, in my opinion. But thank you so much, Kayla, for coming and chatting with me. It's like no time has passed because I haven't seen you in a long time either. But yes, so I won't remember to write down all of the suggestions I gave to you to put on the comments below. So don't look for those. I don't remember things like that. You can ask any of my students. I'm you have to remember it because I won't. But yeah, I look forward to seeing all of my viewers and friends next week. And follow the Great Owl Chair. The Great Owl Chair. I can't say it good. Well,
okay. Neither
follow it on Instagram.
Thank you, Carmen. This was so great.
Outside.